welcome to my channel, The Orchid Hut. My name is Dana, and today's video is going to be a quick repot of a small Phalaenopsis orchid. Now, the history of this Phalaenopsis orchid is that it was a Keiki from my very large white Phalaenopsis that we have come to know as Penelope. So this little orchid was developed as a Keiki. Now the plant did not produce this on its own. Several years ago I used a hormone paste on the spike and let this Keiki grow on the mother plant for about a year, and then removed it and repotted it into this clay pot, and it's been in this pot about 2 years now. So it's going into its third year as a Phalaenopsis. It's still considered a very small plant, and you know, if you look at the size of the mother plant, you can tell that this little orchid has a long way to go before it becomes a specimen plant or even a mature plant that can bloom on its own. In fact, that may take 7 or 8 years. So this is a lesson in patience if you want to try and repot a Keiki, whether it develops naturally or whether you do it through a hormonal paste to the spike. It still does take a very, very long time to develop a plant like this into one that is ready to bloom. But since it has been in this pot for about 2 years, I'm going to go ahead and repot it. I know that it is too small to bloom this spring season, so I'm certainly not expecting this one to bloom. You can tell that it has a little bit of new root growth starting right here, and there's another new root starting right there in that leaf joint, and the stem is a bit far away from the media now, and I can tell on the top of the pot that the media is beginning to look a little bit tired. So we're going to go ahead and take this one out and do a quick repot. I'm not expecting to need any cinnamon, but I have flamed my cutters because I'm imagining there might be a dead root or two, and I have my 3% hydrogen peroxide ready just in case I see a reason to spray the roots. All right, this is my standard Phalaenopsis mix that I use. And since this has been in a very, very similar media for the last 2 years, I'm not expecting to have to change this in any way. So let's go ahead and take this out and see what we see. All right. I should probably keep the old media separate from the new. As I'm doing this, and I'm going to be very gentle here, as I'm doing this, I will tell you a story about my life this past week. It was a roller coaster. My mom, who is quite elderly, became ill with some sort of upper respiratory situation. And because she's in a senior facility, she had a COVID test, because you have to be careful, and I believe the lab has lost the results of the COVID test, so we never did really know whether she had COVID or not. But she's been taking a ton of medication, and I've been going in to care for her, of course not knowing this entire week whether I had exposed myself to COVID. But she's getting better, and that's a positive sign. Of just having to be very, very careful this week and sort of handle all of her doctor's appointments and prescriptions and care and all that kind of stuff. So my week did not go as planned, but I think things are looking up as of today. So that's good news. All right, so back to the orchid. Enough about me and my drama. The roots look pretty good. So you can tell that these roots have really, really thickened up. They're still alive. They branched a little bit, and now they have some yellow extensions to the original roots. It looks like a new root developed here, because I do remember potting this one with just 2 roots. which was a little bit sketchy when I did that because I wasn't exactly sure that 2 roots could support it. And now it's getting 2 more roots. You can tell right here that this was the old stem of the spike. This was the old spike right here that the Keiki grew from, and that's still there. I may go ahead and clip that off now so that you know, it doesn't cause any rot, because it is a little bit soft. That old spike is a little bit soft. And I think we will go ahead and spray just a little bit of peroxide right there. And I think that's all we really need to do. All right, and this one is ready to repot. I'm having second thoughts about having used these clay pots, you know, with the orchid just directly planted into them. It was a little bit troublesome for me not to be able to see the roots developing on this. And it is glazed on the inside, so the roots weren't going to attach to this pot, but it really did trouble me that I couldn't see it. So my plan now is to still use this decoratively, but when I repot the orchid, I'll put it in the plastic pot so that I can pull it out, see it, and then it can still just live inside the decorative pot. Okay. So since this pot is so small, I'm not too concerned about it getting plugged up at the bottom. I do want to make sure that I get the orchid a little bit deeper in the pot, and that's going to be a challenge because the orchid is rather long-rooted. Let's see what we can do here. And the roots are moist, so they are somewhat flexible. Just not sure they're going to be as flexible as what I need. Because they're so thick, you really can't do the place and twist method. And it may just be that the orchid is not as far down as maybe I would have liked it. Let's see. This is taking a bit more work than I imagined. I thought this was going to be a plop and go situation. Let's see. I don't want to break those precious roots. Now we're getting there. Okay. It's just a matter of figuring out how to fold them. Okay. So, in with the new media. And the idea here is that the new root growth will be close enough to the media so that these roots can go down inside the pot. I really, really don't want these to develop as aerial roots if I can help it, because you know, it's better if the roots can go inside the pot, inside the media. And this orchid, you know, can probably stay in this sized pot for another 2 years as long as the media doesn't break down, and I don't imagine that it will. I can usually have my Phalaenopsis pots last for about 2 years before they need to be repotted. And the one new root that's growing at the leaf joint, that one may end up being an aerial root because it's growing on the top of a leaf. I probably won't be able to help that, but this root right here, this new root growth right here, I really want that to head down towards that media. And develop a nice new strong root for that orchid. Okay, so I'm going to give this one a good watering, and it will go back and live in its decorative pot. And you know, I've said it before, and I'll end this video on the same note. Growing orchids requires a ton of patience, especially if you want to start off with such a small plant. Okay, mess cleaned up. There's no tag for this one. She's a no ID white Phalaenopsis, and just like her mother, a clone because it was developed as a Keiki from the bloom spike. Okay, so if you like this video or learn something new, please give it a thumbs up, and the subscribe button will be coming up in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Thanks so much for watching, and talk to you next time.